Before we get into the podcast, make sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at This Strange World Podcast and on Twitter at This Strange Pod. This podcast episode, just a little preface, was recorded at the end of August. Now, I don't know if you've been out in the real world recently, but a lot of things happen every week. But keep that in mind while you listen. But it's another good one. And next week we have another good one. And the message throughout this one and the next one is going to be to vote. So vote. Resources in the description. We'll get into it more. But now on to the episode. Enjoy.
Enjoy the podcast.
Enjoy.
Welcome back to the Strange World Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Gavin.
And I'm Leah.
Chris, I love that. That was a solid comment. You came in with gusto. You're so ready.
You were
I wanted
in
to
it,
make it better. I heard the last one that I did, and I was like, that was terrible. So I wanted to make it actually sound like a radio thing, and not.
It sounded like a baseball announcer almost, or just a sports announcer in general.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Very good, Chris. Very good.
We're also joined here by my friend Madison. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
for having me, y'all.
To the podcast. Yeah. So great.
Yeah, so today Gavin and Madison are going to talk about some bizarre U.S. elections as well as people who have run and been elected. So I don't really know much about this. I know Madison is kind of a pro when it comes to stuff like this. And so I'm really interested to see what her and Gavin have to bring to today's podcast.
Yeah, so Madison, what do you do? Or what are you allowed to say that you do?
What am I allowed to say that I do? That is a very narrow
Well, first of all, you're
window.
a student.
First of all, I go to New York University. I'm a political science major.
Yeah, okay.
And a public policy minor.
Okay, so political science. So you've heard of politics.
Yeah, I have a general concept of what it might be. Still working on it. I don't think anyone really knows.
I don't think people have figured it out yet. Chris,
No.
do you know what politics is?
I know what it is. I don't know.
You've heard of it in middle school history class? They were there was just one day where they were like, hey, politics. All right, let's move on
taught me,
to more.
they were the U.S. the system, Democrat, Republican, sometimes independent. And then that was all they told us. They said there was an elephant and a donkey.
Yeah, they were like, hey, politics. All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk more about World War II. So anyway, what do you do, Madison?
Other than being a student, I am an organizer, which basically means I'm a campaign staffer, and I worked on 4 campaigns, and I'm working on the presidential this fall with the state party, so I'm super excited. Yeah, and I'm just going to refrain from talking about that because I could do a whole podcast by myself on just that.
Yeah, no. So, yes, we're talking about politics this episode, but here's the big shtick that we're doing. We're not going to mention this upcoming election because there's a lot going on. We're being political without being political. And we're not going to talk about the 2016 election specifically. We might talk about a few of the other people who ran, not some of the obvious people, maybe people who did pretty well. We're not going to mention them.
We know that this is a very touchy kind of intense topic. So we want to keep this podcast really fun, really friendly, and keep it mutual, keep the ground common. So that's kind of our goal for today's podcast.
Yeah. I think people only get offended if they're Democratic, Republicans, or Federalists, because a lot of the stuff we're talking about is 1800s. We get into 1900s. But so another big thing that we're pushing is voting. Voting is coming up. It's the middle of October right now when you're hearing this. There's still a pandemic going on. So you're going to have to vote because voting... well, hopefully by the time, maybe what if in October it's just over? We're recording this to show it behind the curtain. We're recording this in August, but it's coming out in October. So what if we get there and it's all gone? Wouldn't that be the dream?
That would be
look back and go,
right
I remember that.
Go, yes, remember that. But so in the event that the pandemic isn't over, gotta do the mail-in voting. So I don't know if you guys know about mail-in voting.
I've done it.
That's good.
Yeah,
Did you do it?
That's a start. That's better than most people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of it really until there was a big, commotion about it in this upcoming election. I knew that I knew that there was a way to do it. I didn't know that it was like a real like system that you could do it. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, commotion. Great way to describe it. Great.
So
way to
our
describe
political expert today, Madison, would you like to tell us a little bit about mail-in voting and what people can do?
Sure. So basically, quick overview of mail-in voting. There's two different types of mail-in voting. There is universal mail-in voting, which is when the state sends everyone a ballot, which is in states like California and Oregon. And then there's what's called absentee voting. So absentee voting is basically when there's a reason that you will not be able to go to the polls in person. And in most states, one of those reasons is you can put down as a reason is the coronavirus. So people are pushing mail-in voting because it keeps people socially distanced, it's safe, and it protects the health and well-being of poll workers and everyone who is involved with counting physical ballots on election day. And it's just, if less people vote on election day, less people are in contact, and it's just so much easier. So that being said, it depends completely on the state when your voting deadlines are. Some states you have to be postmarked by, your ballot has to be postmarked by election day or the day before election day, but received before, for example, the Monday after election day. And it completely depends. So check out vote.org. You can check out Vote Save America. Full disclosure, it's definitely a partisan website. They lean Democratic, but it is a really helpful resource just to know who's on the ballot, what they stand for, and what your deadlines are in each state. So make sure you know, because this is such an important election. It is so important that you make your voice heard, because there are seats from the presidency to the Senate to the House to state houses and state senates all across the country that could go either way. And your vote really matters this year.
Yeah. Elections are important in general, but this year it's very important.
Very.
So anyway, speaking of elections, did you like that segue? That's my segue to the topic.
That was a flawless segue, Gavin.
Thank you so much, Chris. So as we already mentioned at the beginning of this, and it's the title of the episode, most bizarre elections, bizarre U.S. elections. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Leah mentioned it. A lot of these elections are, I will admit, not very recent. They're not very relevant. The first one is from 1800. So, it's not, I assume there's not too much controversy with it. I would assume. But you never know. But I guess we can just jump right into it. Chris, any final thoughts before I just jump right into it?
Nah, go for it. Floor's all yours. You got it.
Great. So this was, when I was looking at different bizarre U.S. elections, I looked across multiple lists, but there were a few that seemed to be across all of the lists, that there were like a good amount of U.S. elections that were from all the lists. Best list I found was from CNN Politics, 10 of the most bizarre elections in American history. So a lot of what I'm reading off is pretty much taken directly from that. We'll have that in the sources. We'll also have the resources to vote and learn about that in the sources. But please don't sue me, CNN Politics. Some of this I'm reading word for word. Some of it is paraphrased or changed to have simpler language. But please don't sue me, CNN Politics. I love it. Not that we don't, CNN, whether they're lean left or right, who's to say? Are they, do they lean one way? Or
they're pretty objective. Most conceptions of them think that they lean a little bit to the left, but they're pretty much straight down. They're pretty much straight down the middle.
Okay.
In my opinion, everybody thinks differently.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we, as students that go to liberal colleges, lean one way or the other. We're going to try and stay pretty objective to all
I'm
this.
really going to have to hold my tongue today.
Yes.
Yeah, same here, girl. Same here. Oh my god.
Leah too. We're all holding our tongues.
Me especially. I'm
the one talking. Yeah, Leah.
If you want to hear my hot takes on everything, you can find me on Twitter. So just hit me up.
Can we make an unfiltered podcast version and just like release it? Just have a bunch of us.
That's like an after show.
It'll have to.
Right.
There'll have to be like a half an hour spent on just bleeping out everything.
Exactly.
Every other word.
It's quacked now.
All right. Well, it's almost 10 minutes into this, so I guess we can jump into the topic. So the first one is pretty well known, and I think it has become more well known since 2016.
Nope,
maybe?
2015.
2015? Okay.
It started late July.
Okay,
2015.
so 2015. So as of 2015, something really popularized this election. And I am sure you guys know what it is, but we'll get to it, and there will be an opportunity to guess what it is. So basically, first election we're talking about, I think I mentioned it, is the election of 1800. And
You just gave it away by saying that particular phrase.
that it's 1800? Or
The
that
election of 1800.
well, okay. No, but like for people who aren't like obsessed with it, they wouldn't realize it.
I don't know it.
Anyone who's been educated
Did I know it?
in the past.
I don't say that.
Forever.
Don't say it. Shh. It's okay. Chris and Leah aren't.
All I know is it's in 1800. That's it. That's all I know.
Mhm.
So,
All right, fine.
all right. When I get closer into it, you guys will probably be able to figure it out. So basically, the outcome of the 1800 contest was between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. It was super bizarre, and the outcome, they had to make an amendment because of the outcome, and that was the 12th Amendment. So before the 12th Amendment, Electoral College members each had 2 votes for president, and there were no official tickets. Whoever garnered the most votes was president, and second place took the vice presidency. So that's why all the old ones, like, it was then second place became vice president, first place,
So
you won, you got.
So they never chose their vice president running mate. It was just second place. Silver medal was vice president. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
I think
interesting.
actually one of the later ones I talk about is the first election where they do that. You might have said
So
something.
how many people used to run for elections back then? Do we know?
Not too many people. I think this year, or I think 1800, it was 4 people.
I would hate to be number 3 when you're like just lose by just a little bit and you're out of the White
Well,
House.
really, as you'll hear a little bit later, it's much worse to be number 4. So, but that's just a little teaser for later. So, anyway, the election of 1800 saw Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, tie with his Democratic-Republican running mate, Aaron Burr. I say running mate; it was just someone else running in the party, but he wasn't like the technical running mate, like the phrase you'd use today. But so they both each got 73 votes, and John Adams got 65. And the other person running was also Charles C. Pinckney. So he didn't do as well. He did not get as much. But so basically it was between,
Rip.
rip to our man, Pinckney. But Jefferson and Aaron Burr tied. And they were both in the same party. And so Congress had to be called upon to break the tie. So I don't know if you guys know about Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr having a tie.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any idea of who might have been brought in to give their opinion about it? Leah, it sounds like you might know.
Hamilton, right?
Yes. So enter Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
Exactly.
Enter
Sorry.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Enter Lin-Manuel
my
Miranda. What's in the? Oh, is the song called "The Election of 1800"?
It's literally called the election.
Yeah,
That's why I
that's
said you
an
gave
old
it
thing.
away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't. I've never
Okay.
seen it play,
I also-
actually.
It's from Act 2. That's why no one knows it.
That's why I didn't know the name, but I know the song.
Everyone always listens to Act 1, and then they're like, Act 2, forget about it.
Act was pretty. That's why I also said like 2015 and stuff. That's when Hamilton came out.
Yes.
So anyway, Alexander Hamilton, the nation's first Treasury Secretary, founder of the Federalist Party, and a man who did not care for Adams, Jefferson, or Burr.
Or like many people.
He didn't like a lot of people,
Yeah.
and he also wasn't.
liked Washington. That's who he liked.
Yeah. So, nonetheless, Hamilton engaged in a campaign to convince the Federalists to vote for Jefferson, his lesser of 3 evils, writing in a letter that Mr. Burr loves nothing but himself, thinks of nothing but his own aggrandizement. The House of Representatives didn't easily arrive at its decision, casting 35 ballots in a week before finally voting to name Jefferson the victor and Burr the Veep on February 7th, 1801. And then afterwards, making the election all zanier. The rivalry between Burr and Hamilton would continue for more than 3 years before Burr, still the sitting vice president, killed Hamilton in a duel, which was the whole story of Alexander Hamilton. This election was pretty close. There's a couple of ones I talk about that are like ties or close to ties.
Mhm.
Those are all known as pretty much the most bizarre ones. But so I'd like to imagine a lot of these if they're brought into modern day. Like imagine if there were like 2 people modern day. It was so close that they were like, all right, let's just call in like someone for their opinion. Like
Let's get Emmanuel Macron up in here from France to be like, what do you think?
Just, some random person. Like, what do you think about this? Who do you like of just one person? That wouldn't happen today. Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they made the 12th Amendment.
Interesting.
I don't. Which is?
That's a great question.
What is this 12th Amendment?
I just know that this was made for the 12th Amendment, but maybe I'll look that up right now.
I was going to sound smart and be like, oh, yeah. I was going to sound really smart and be like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure it's just the
Amendment?
first place, second place. Like, it gets rid of that, and voters would elect a president and a vice president on one ticket as opposed to doing the first place, second place.
I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah, I think you're correct. That's what Google says. I feel like definitely throughout history, as you'll see, a lot of America, which is kind of the whole thing, is that they figure out stuff as they go along, like that. Then they're like, it works until it doesn't work, and then they're like, this sucks, which I feel like is also kind of relevant today with then people being like, get rid of the electoral college. Like, I feel like that's today's version of like, the times have changed. We need to make voting better, which then also happened in 1800.
It doesn't make sense to have first place, second place, because what if the second place has completely different views than the first place, and now they're working together? So it's just a conflict in the White House.
Yeah.
That's why we have amendments and constitutions and laws and all that good stuff.
Yeah, otherwise it would be complete anarchy without laws.
I mean, also if we were going by the same rules from the 1800s, I'm sure things would be a lot different.
I'm sure there'd be a little bit more of an issue than first place, second place.
Yes, I'm sure there'd be more than that issue.
True.
So we can move right along. So we were just at 1800. Here's our timeline. We're at 1800. We're going to bump ahead to 1824. So the Federalist Party, as I just mentioned, that Hamilton had created, not that year, but the Federalist Party was on the cusp of extinction. And so all four candidates were Democratic Republicans. That's my background on this election. So Andrew Jackson, who was a war hero and a statesman, won the popular vote by fewer than 39,000 ballots and took 99 electoral college votes. But so Secretary of State John Quincy Adams took 84 electoral college votes. Treasury Secretary William Crawford took 41, and House Speaker Henry Clay took 37. And so there was no candidate earning a majority of the votes. The House again had to settle the deadlock, and Jackson was confident that he would win the presidency, given that he had won the popular vote and the Electoral College. And so because the House could only choose among three candidates, Clay got the boot. So that's what I was saying earlier, Chris, about how it seems like it'd be worse to be number 4 because they could only choose between 3 candidates, so they had to kick the lowest candidate off.
And he was only the last by 4 electoral votes, which, considering there's now 435 electoral votes, that might not be the right number. My brain is
I don't know.
My brain's not working right now.
I don't think anyone's coming here for accurate numbers to this podcast. Maybe.
But I came here for accurate numbers.
You are the expert.
Not with numbers, but yeah, that's depressing.
So William Crawford had 41 electoral college votes. Henry Clay had 37, and they're like, bye. So they kicked him off. Henry Clay, not thrilled. It's not like he went and killed everyone, but so Clay got the boot. And so within a month, many of Clay's supporters shifted their support to Adams, who would go on to win the majority of the House votes. Maryland, Illinois, and Louisiana, which had cast most of their electoral college votes for Jackson, as well as Kentucky, where Adams did not receive a single ballot in the popular vote, decided to now back Adams. And so Adams won, basically. He hadn't won the popular vote or the electoral college initially, but then when it was too close and they did a re-voting thing, then John Quincy Adams won over Andrew Jackson. So
if I was in a re-vote, I'd be so anxious. I'd be like, ugh.
Well, yeah. I mean, imagine you're like, all right, you win the popular vote, you get the electoral college, but then they're like, nah, you didn't get enough. So let's do a re-vote, and then you end up losing.
I would feel if I was Andrew Jackson, I'd feel like, I won the popular vote, won the electoral college, and now they're saying I don't have enough. I'd feel like they just don't want me in office anymore. It's like someone is, well, because you won, and then now they're like, oh, we got to recount. You didn't win.
Yeah.
Popular votes, man. So anyway, to continue, there's more, by the way. That wasn't the whole thing. There's more. So within a month or so, that was the last paragraph.
There wasn't anymore.
There is more. There is still more. I just read the part. I mean, this is all off the top of my head, but it's also from CNN Politics.
And it's also in a well-organized Google Doc.
And I also copied it into a Google Doc. Please don't sue me, CNN Politics. I love your article.
Jake Tapper is going to come after you.
I'm going to wake up with Jake Tapper standing at the end of my bed. All right. After his inauguration, Adams selected Clay as his Secretary of State. Now, do you guys remember who Clay was?
Can I have the chart?
Do you want a chart? I wish I could do a chart. Clay was the fourth candidate who was kicked off for having 4 less.
His torch got extinguished, right? Survivor.
Four left. So then all of Clay's supporters went to Adams, and then Adams then now hired Clay as his Secretary of State. So Jackson was not thrilled. He was furious and accused Adams and Clay of a corrupt bargain. He vacated his Senate seat and vowed to win the 1828 election as a Washington outsider, as we, because Washington outsiders now. Oh my goodness. Backed by his new party, the Democrats, Jackson made good on his promise, besting Adams, who by then was the leader of the National Republican Party. I think that was the next election.
Yeah, so that was the split when the two modern parties started. There's been a lot of what's called party realignments. There's been a few of those since then, where it's basically like the parties basically flip their platforms, because like the Democrats at that point, pretty sure, I'm sorry to all my politics professors that I'm just completely bungling what they taught me, but also I'm 95% sure this is right. But the Democrats and Republicans basically had completely opposite platforms at that time as they do now. Like the modern Republican Party looks like the Democratic Party then.
Mm.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's why, like, I mean, yeah, it was. That's what I was going to say. That, like, back then, like, it would be like, if we talk about like a Republican, it's a modern day Democrat.
Yeah,
that's confusing. And then there was like the Democratic Republican, like,
yeah,
they just need new words.
Democratic Republicans basically are modern day Republicans in that they both want smaller, decentralized governments.
Mm. Yeah,
fun fact. Not just fact.
Pretty fun.
Like, fun on it is pretty
interesting. Something I honestly
that's
never
a big
knew.
move to say fun.
To say it's a fun fact.
Yeah,
it's a fact.
That's a step.
Definitely a fact. So that was the end of that. There's no more paragraphs.
This is like a soap opera. The political system in the United States is like a big, reality TV show.
Yeah.
Did I do something? What?
Are you serious?
Did you get a cookie?
What?
Are you serious?
Did Chris get a cookie?
Did you not mean to do that?
No, I don't know what I did. What did I do? What did I do?
Keyword.
You alluded to our main man in office.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah, I did that on purpose. Yeah. No, I did that. Yeah.
No, of course.
Yeah.
It was all
Yeah, no, I did that on purpose.
Oh, gosh.
We'll move along. We'll move past this. Everyone, we
move past
grow,
this.
we age.
Move past this nightmare.
Move past the nightmare. The next election, we're going to move up to 1860. And so this election, it wasn't special because it was close or anything. Abraham Lincoln trounced. That's the word that CNN decided to use. Trounced John.
No, trounced.
Trounced.
There's an N.
I'm gonna zoom in this document because
please make the font larger.
How do I zoom in?
Gavin's very organized. Google Doc isn't very organized.
No, it's not.
He's making typos.
Organized. It's just the font is just really freaking small.
It was very small. All right, so let's try that again. Abraham Lincoln trounced.
Yes.
Trounced John Breckinridge.
Yes.
In an election that had one of the highest voter turnouts of all time.
Is this just going to be me
turning
to me to make sure that you've pronounced words correctly?
There's a lot of big words. So 1860, it's not bizarre because it was close like the past couple. But the 1860 election was notable because it ripped the long dominant Democratic Party and thereby the nation in half. So the Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision of 1857, essentially legalizing slavery in all U.S. territories, had laid the battleground. So the Republican Party didn't like slavery. So that was probably Democrats, modern day Democrats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure modern day Democrats still don't like slavery. So the Republican Party largely opposed slavery, but was reluctant to push for its prohibition in states that already had it. And the Democrats were unable at their 1860 convention to establish an official party line on slavery. And so at the second convention that year, Democrats nominated Senator Stephen Douglas of Illinois, but many Southerners in the party defected and selected Breckinridge, who was vice president, as their man. Both would claim to be the official Democratic candidate. And so the Constitutional Union Party, which had formed the year before and staged a campaign that basically ignored the issue of slavery, selected Senator John Bell of Tennessee.
That's basically like going in modern day. Oh, it's like ignoring taxes. It's like the Republicans feel one way in taxes, Democrats feel one way in taxes, and the third party's like, we're not going to talk about taxes at all because they don't matter. That's basically what this did, and that's just so funny. It's just ignoring.
Oh, would I love to go off right now?
Well,
Would I love to
slavery
go
or
off?
Keep the leash
I
on.
need to like
Taxes.
bite my tongue.
That was me getting my feelings out without actually saying them.
Yeah.
So
You know what? That was good because oh my god. Okay, moving on.
the Electoral College vote told the whole story. So Lincoln snared only 40% of the popular vote, but in the Electoral College took most of the North, along with California and Oregon. Douglas came in second in the popular vote, but only took Missouri and 3 votes New Jersey. Breckinridge took most of the South, along with Maryland and Delaware, and Bell's middle-of-the-road policies earned him the middle of the road, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. A lot of people, a lot of places, but here's what
That's a
happened.
lot to keep track of.
A lot to keep track of. I wish I had a chart. This is a good episode to have a chart, visuals. Perfect for a podcast. Weeks after the election, South Carolina voted to secede, followed by 6 more southern states. And in February of 1861, delegates from those states formed the Confederate States of America and selected Jefferson Davis as their president. In April, a South Carolina militia would take Fort Sumner, and 4 more states would join the Confederacy. So,
Sumter.
what?
It's a T.
What of which state? Fort Sumter. And 4 more states would join the Confederacy. So basically, this was the election that made the USA split in half. And then the 2 separate countries, or split like unions.
It wasn't really two. It was just 2 separate. I don't know. I would call it entities. I don't know if there's a technical name for it.
Yeah.
2 separate territories.
I guess maybe unions, but like there was a union and then there's a confederate. I don't know.
But it wasn't really a union on the bottom. It was just a collection of states. That's why they called it the Confederacy. So
That's true.
What were the northern states called still?
It was called the Union, I'm pretty sure.
I thought
which is the same. It's the same thing.
That's a Confederacy.
Oh. Well, yeah.
I have so many things to say right now.
Anything that you can say?
No, it's all about my mom.
Oh. All right.
I love how we got from there to Confederacy to.
War.
Who lost the Civil War?
The Confederacy lost the Civil War. She's like, I don't like losing. I'm like,
I mean, didn't they?
you guys were racist and
They kind of
pro-slavery. Ugh.
did. Yeah. So that was
Moving on from that nightmare.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the nation divided?
I mean, okay, let me see how to put this. It feels right now also. Shut, Chris, I see you. Shut.
No. I just like to you went. Huh.
How do I put this? Let's do some carefully worded parallel.
Yeah, we're gonna try and really carefully say this. Right now, currently, my opinion is that it feels like we are divided, and I think
That's a good feel. That's an accurate feeling.
yeah, and I don't want
that's
to I don't want to show sides and anything.
No, that's not true. It's just telling it how it is.
But it's really depressing and sad to just see how that is currently, and I'm sure there are other people that kind of feel the same way, but hopefully in the future we can all kind of find a common ground, at least on things. Again, I'm trying to really carefully say this because boy could I
You're doing a great
have
job.
a field day, but that's like my overall personal opinion, feelings.
No, yeah,
That's
there's
true.
definitely it is true, and I think there's definitely been an emergence. Is emergence a word? Emergence? Yeah, there's been an emergence of within the past 4 years of a division in the country, and I think even this year that thing just to really add to 2020, things have just escalated at like an exponential level.
Yeah, I feel like we've taken, sometimes you take steps forward and you improve. Sometimes you take steps back. And I feel like we're back a little bit, but I'd love to see us get forward because we're all one race. We're all the human race. Like, who said that? Really good quote. It was like
why don't you just take
said-
credit?
Yeah,
What?
You can take credit
That's
for
what
it.
you saying that. Just take credit for it. No one else said it.
Sure, I'll take credit for it. But we're all one race, the human race.
okay.
We should all come together and
That was not Mark Twain.
that's how I feel. But someone
No,
else
it's
may
good.
feel different.
I think Leah, when you're saying that we're taking a little step back, you know how you have to take it like a step back to get a big leap forward, like you have to get like running room. I think that's what we're doing.
We're getting it.
So
We're at the starting line. When you're like, when you run track, you're kind of like you push back on the stands and then you like leap off. And like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Large step back.
Yeah.
It's kind of
that
like
means
we're doing a split. Like that's how far. Just like really far.
You need a lot of spring back to get a big forward.
We're doing an over split, actually.
Right. The biggest step back makes the biggest step forward. I don't know if that's a real quote. I just made it.
Full lap of the track, running backward, and then we're gonna start the race.
Yeah.
So I want to give credit where credit is due, because like Gavin, that's what you say whenever we say our sources. So I want to say this quote was from Jane Elliott, and she said, "There are not 4 or 5 races. There is only one race on this face of the earth, and we are all members of this race, of the human race." There's more to that quote, but I feel like
I like that quote.
But that is it's like it's a very good quote because it has so much power in it. So
and I think Obama played off of it in 2004 in his convention speech.
Yeah.
And when he said, "We are not a red America, we're not a blue America, we are the United States of America." I'm paraphrasing, and that might not be the actual wording, but I'm pretty sure
if that was the actual wording, that was like actually really good, though.
That's like cool.
That.
It's probably something like that.
I like that.
Didn't you have to read it from one of your classes?
Maybe. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. All right, so we're only going to do a few more because these are hard to follow. But so the next one, I'll try to give enough time for a conversation to digest this information, if you will. So 1872 is the next year we're looking at. It was bizarre for many reasons. Here's an example of some of the reasons it's bizarre, but not the reason I'm going to talk about. So 1872 was the year suffragette Victoria Woodhull of the People's Party became the first woman to run for president. Good job, Victoria. Also, writer and abolitionist Frederick Douglass, her running mate, was the first African American to be considered for vice presidency. Pop off, Freddie. That was also the year that
I just processed that. Pop off, Freddie. All right, man.
You can feel free to laugh towards the mic.
But like, remember? Never mind. I was about to say the T word.
Yeah. No, we're not talking about.
But he thought that he was still alive. Does anyone?
No, he didn't.
He did.
No,
he thought that Frederick Douglass was still alive. That's not a lie. That wasn't that
in his interview? His interview with CNN or something?
It was like a bit ago.
Wow,
but he died a long time ago.
To give some context, Frederick Douglass died in February of 1895.
And the way the T word was talking, it was like a press conference. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the wording was like suggested that it was present tense. Like he was using present tense when talking about Frederick Douglass, and I'm like, well, he died over 100 years ago, so that's fun.
Anyway, so also in 1872, that was the year that we got suffragette and Frederick Douglass running for president. Well, Frederick VP. And then that was also the year that Susan B. Anthony would be arrested for illegal voting. But so none of that is what I'm talking about of why it's bizarre. Those are just some fun facts. So 1872 was strange because one of the primary candidates never saw the final Electoral College vote. So Horace Greeley wasn't supposed to put up much of a fight in his bid to unseat President Ulysses S. Grant. What?
Wait, is that Horace Greeley like the publicist of the newspaper or something like that?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, no, he created, I think, the New York Tribune.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So wow,
so
there you go.
The Greeley Tribune now.
And you say you don't know history. There you go. He wasn't supposed to put up much of a fight to unseat President Ulysses S. Grant, but in a schism in Grant's Republican Party made things a little more interesting. Grant, who led the Union armies that defeated the Confederacy, had not been so convincing in the Oval Office. So people didn't like him. People didn't love him as president. He wasn't really a politician. He was not a general, but like he led armies. Yeah.
That's a general.
He was a general.
Was he a general?
Yeah, he was. Yes. He was general.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure what rank he was, but
he was a general.
Yeah. All right, so he was a general. But so the White House website describes him as out of his element and quotes one visitor who spoke of his, quote, puzzled pathos as of a man with a problem before him of which he does not understand the terms.
Let's just pause and
End
unpack
quote.
what that means.
So
yeah,
let me read. So he had a puzzled pathos as a man with a problem before him of which he does not understand the terms.
Would you like to break that down for us, Gavin?
Would I like to break that down? I would love to break that down. So Ulysses S. Grant, he was president. They didn't love him in the office. He had a problem. He didn't understand it. Popcorn, Madison.
I think that this means it's just he was thrown into an office that he wasn't too familiar with, is how I'm interpreting this quote. Just he couldn't like grow into the job. Like it was something that he had never experienced before. He'd never run for office. Being a general is completely different than being an elected official. So while he definitely handled he definitely handled like the being commander-in-chief of the army well, he probably just there's a lot else to being president that probably wasn't equipped for. That's what I'm interpreting it as.
I can feel Leah's lips. Leah's lip. I can feel them just pursing. She is holding back the floodgates right now.
I wish this was one of the aforementioned things I talk about that we learned from, but apparently not. So anyway, I will continue.
I actually said that with only that quote in mind and not anything else.
No,
and then as soon as Chris said that comment, I was like, oh, right. Maybe I should think more about the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Some Republicans didn't dig it, didn't mess with it, so they became liberal Republicans and cast their lot with Greeley, a Democrat who would go on to snare 44% of the popular vote, almost 3 million ballots, despite him stopping campaigning to tend to his sick wife, who died a week before the election. And so before the Electoral College could cast its votes, Horace Greeley died on November 29th, 1872, and 63 of his 66 votes were dispersed among Thomas Hendricks, who would later become vice president, and other Democrats.
I just want to know where the last 3 votes went.
Maybe to a different Democrat, I guess. But I don't know. That's a good point. Maybe they were like, we can't give them all to this guy. That would be too easy. Because
we're going to give them to Deez Nuts, who definitely existed in whatever year, I don't remember which year this was. What year was this?
1872.
Yeah. Whatever the Deez Nuts of 1872 was, definitely got some electoral votes.
Maybe they did that. They didn't give them all the votes to cover their butts so that then people couldn't be like, oh, Thomas killed Horace, just to get the votes.
Oh, so they're trying to rid any chance of conspiracy theories?
Yeah, by not giving him all 66 votes, they only give him 63.
And they give them the other 3 under the table.
Yeah.
Backroom deal.
Also, side fact, Grant attended his rival's funeral. I don't know why they felt the need to put that in.
That's customary. Why would they feel the need to put that in?
I don't know why they put that in. So, yeah, he died before they could figure it out. So I guess Ulysses S. Grant probably stayed in office because his opponent died. All right, so those are all the ones that we're going to talk about. I know that was pretty not deep. It's not deep. It's just dense. That's the word I was looking for. It's pretty dense. A lot of words, a lot of people, a lot of numbers to keep track of. But so basically just evidence that we've had previous bizarre elections, but we have also had a lot of bizarre people run for offices, and we've had a lot of bizarre people take offices. Now, currently, there's an example of a very bizarre person who may or may not have run and may or may not have won an office. We are not going to acknowledge that person, but we will acknowledge other people.
Mm-hmm.
You got the list?
Yep. One of them is Al Franken.
Al Franken.
So that's something really interesting to unpack because, when I was a kid, I grew up watching SNL reruns with my parents, and I was like, Al Franken. And then one day, my mom was like, oh, no, he's a senator. And I'm like, so how did he get there? Turns out, so he was a radio host. Another person he had a show, radio talk show about politics. And then he's like, I'm going to run for the Senate seat in Minnesota. And he won. It was 2006. And now he's no longer a senator. We're not going to unpack that because I'm biting my tongue as we speak.
Don't need to.
Don't need to. There's no reason.
Yeah. So he was on SNL, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was a comedian on Saturday Night Live, created by Lorne Michaels.
Yes, exactly. So that's weird. People who've been on television, running for office, getting office. I think another weird.
What a bizarre concept that
what
is.
A bizarre
totally
concept.
unfamiliar.
I've never heard of that, honestly.
Another weird one I would say would be, which wasn't even on our list, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh, yeah.
That's strange.
That's strange.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to think about, like, the Terminator giving a State of the State address.
Yeah.
Like, State of the Union,
formerly
but for the
Mr.
state.
Freeze saying what's good for California.
Yeah,
Weird.
that's just California should just be its own country. That's my hot take.
Do you think people voted for him because they liked what he was doing, or they voted for him because he was Arnold Schwarzenegger and they wanted him to be their governor?
Probably because they wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to be their governor.
It also totally depends on who he was running against. Now that I think about it,
True.
I have no idea who his opponent was.
He was a Republican, wasn't he?
Oh, he was a Republican.
Yes.
But he was a California Republican, so that doesn't mean a lot. That's like a Vermont Republican. A Vermont Republican is a moderate Democrat.
He was the 38th governor of California. He was in office from November of 2003 to January of 2011. So is that one term or 2 terms?
2 terms.
2 terms. Apparently, he had a lot of nicknames when he was running. Do you guys want to hear some of his nicknames?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Governator, in reference to the Terminator.
Oh wow, so clever.
That's that. They need to work on that one. Yeah,
they could work. They could have workshop that one.
They could have made something. They could have made something better than that.
He was also referred to as the Running Man, which was another name of one of his.
Yeah.
And then they called the recall election Total Recall, which was another film that he starred in. And
can they do anything original? Do they have any original nicknames?
No, probably not.
Probably not.
Cool. But he declined to participate in several debates with other recall replacement candidates and only appeared in one debate. He announced his candidacy on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
And that was so unusual at the time. And I'm pretty sure 3 people during this election cycle, like 3 Democrats who ran, announced on TV. Like, I'm pretty sure Gillibrand announced on Colbert. Harris announced either on Colbert, Today Show, The View, like one of those 3. Yeah, people started announcing on TV shows that they're like, yeah, why do they do that?
Well, I mean, he is like, that's his whole thing. That he's like he needs the attention, probably. But unfortunately, guys, Schwarzenegger can't run to be a U.S. president because he's not a natural-born citizen. He's Austrian. So, oh well. Guess we'll never see that.
Well, that didn't stop Ted Cruz, who was born in Canada.
Was he born in Canada?
He was born in Canada. He ran for president in the 2016 election.
Wait, so if Ted Cruz won, he just wouldn't have been able to be president?
We have no idea. No idea of knowing because he didn't win.
True.
There's a thing, if you're born on a base, if you're born on like U.S. property in another country, then you can be president.
That is true.
That's what it is.
He was not. Like if you were born on Ramstein Air Base in Germany, you could be president because it's U.S. base. But Ted Cruz was just like casually born in Canada and still tries to claim he's a natural born citizen because the interpretation of what that means apparently is up for interpretation. But I don't know. We're all told one thing, so let's just roll with it.
Is it also true that if you're born in the air and you're crossing into like the U.S. that you're born and then that you could be a citizen now? They're like you've gotten citizenship.
Like if you're actually delivered on the plane.
It'd be like, oh my god, my water, and then you're just born and like, ta-da!
That's exactly how birth happens. That's incredible.
I think that's exactly how people deliver babies on planes. That's exactly what it sounds like. Oh, the water.
The water. Baby's born. There's not like 24 hours of labor or anything.
Their passport, if they're born in the airplane, their passport just says the ocean. I think that's
their passport says somewhere near Iceland.
Somewhere over the water.
Maybe Canada? Question mark.
Somewhere out there.
Question? Who else is on our list that we got?
Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic ran for
American Icon.
What did he run for?
He ran for president in 2016.
And that was before he was like a person.
That was before. Well, thank God that was before he was a person, because I feel like it would have got a lot more traction had he been
that was
a
after
person.
Tiger King. I feel like that would have could have gotten a little. He made a little way. So.
There was a whole thing
This guy ran for president.
John Oliver did a whole thing about it in 2016. It was fascinating. It was hilarious. I remember laughing. So funny. And then
what has our world turned into?
That's a great question.
It's a strange world.
This strange world, guys.
This strange world.
We're just trying to make our way through this strange world. And
You're doing your dad job.
now that was it. That's it. Cut it off. That's no more podcasts. That was it.
Roll credits.
Roll credits. That's it.
Full stop.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness Joe Exotic was just a weird tiger guy before he was the Tiger King.
Also ran in 2016. Deez Nuts was polling at 9% in South Carolina.
In multiple states. He was
Multiple states.
He was like 9% in like 2 states and 8% in 1 state, or reversed.
Was he a write-in or was he actually on the ballot?
Oh, he was actually on the ballot in South Carolina. I'm
Don't
pretty
you have
sure.
to go through a process to get on the ballot too?
You do.
You want me to read about Deez Nuts?
Let's read about
Deez
Deez
Nuts
Nuts.
was a satirical presidential candidate portrayed by Brady C. Olson. He was born in I guess they don't know when. He was born in either 99 or 2000, so he's 21, 22.
That's actually like public knowledge now. We can find out how old he is because if your voter records are public knowledge, and you have to put date of birth. So we can find out how old he is now.
Well,
so apparently no one's updated the Wikipedia page.
I guess so. He ran in the 2016 election. His form to run for office was filed with the Federal Election Commission in late July 2015. In polls conducted by Public Policy Polling in Iowa, Minnesota, and North Carolina in mid-August 2015, he polled at 8%, 8%, and 9% respectively, garnering the attention of the media. He announced it on Facebook. His intention to run for Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. They were like, you can't. He was like, I wanna. And a poll performed in mid-August 2016 showed Deez Nuts slightly edging out Harambe and Jill Stein, the former of whom was a deceased gorilla.
Jill
in
Stein,
Texas
the deceased gorilla.
With 3%. Yes.
Harambe, the Green Party candidate.
Can you imagine if he had actually won? And then, like, you're going to get, like, your grandkids are going to have textbooks that have all the presidents in it, and it's going to be, like, the 45th president was Deez Nuts. And it'll be, like, just a picture.
Spelled nuts. I'm like, actually, is it spelled like Deez? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Deez Nuts.
Yeah, so do you guys want to hear some people who endorsed Deez Nuts?
Yeah.
I would love to.
So, the original Deez Nuts skits, which I think was a Vine, the guy that was like, Deez Nuts, ha, got him. The guy who originally did that. He endorsed Deez Nuts. Hip-hop artist Warren G. and Ice-T also endorsed Deez Nuts. And then, do you want to know who Deez Nuts endorsed? Presumably after he had to drop out? Bernie Sanders and John Kasich for the respective Democratic and Republican presidential nominees.
So he endorsed the most liberal Republican and the most liberal Democrat. All right.
Yeah.
Deez Nuts.
You guys want to hear some, I guess, other people that were also had not a bad percentage in.
Oh, it's but it's a joke candidate.
The joke.
It's a joke candidate poll. Queen Elsa.
Wait, what is this? I'm confused.
So, like, people poll joke candidates. Like, which of these joke candidates would you vote for? And then I love that 58% said not sure, because of course they're jokes.
Do you want to hear who these joke candidates were?
Mm-hmm.
All right. 5% voted for Beast Mode.
Is that like Marshawn Lynch Beast Mode? Or is that just
assume.
Beast Mode?
The concept.
It's just
They're
Beast
voting
Mode.
for the
concept of Beast Mode.
3% voted for butt stuff.
Again, the concept or the person?
I think just the concept of butt stuff.
What if there's a first person? First name butt, last name stuff.
First name butt, last. That's how they introduce themselves. Hi, I'm Stuff. First name butt, last name Stuff. Like James Bond.
Butt stuff.
The name Stuff. Butt stuff.
17% voted for Captain Crunch.
That's the correct answer.
That's the correct answer.
That's who I wrote in 2016.
Was not butt stuff, Captain Crunch.
No, it was butt stuff. You kidding me? It was butt
2% voted for Cranky Pants.
Oh, so like a toddler?
I guess. A child. 9% voted for Deez Nuts, as we know. 1% voted for Limberbutt McCubbins. Is that just a silly?
Limberbutt.
I have no idea.
It should be McLovins. Limberbutt McLovins.
McLovins.
1% voted for American Cookies, like American, but like apostrophe M. American Cookies. 4% voted for Queen Elsa Ice. Not just Elsa from.
Wait, does that mean Queen Elsa of the Ice Party?
That's a good question. I would guess it's either Queen Elsa Ice, like her last name's Ice, I guess, or Queen Elsa of the Ice Party. And then, like you said, 58% said not sure.
Who would you, out of these, who would you guys vote for?
That's a great question.
I think butt stuff. It's my answer.
Oh, I love that
Deez
one.
Nuts.
I love the stuff that people come up with on the just internet age and just everything. The stuff people come up with are just hilarious.
Truly. I think I might have to vote for, who wasn't in this, but he was in a different poll in a different state, Harambe. I think I'd have to vote for Harambe.
Oh, Harambe. Yeah, I changed Harambe.
Harambe.
The stuff that people vote in is so funny to, like, write as a write-in vote. I think the year...
Oh my God.
20... I don't remember which year, but whenever year the Red Sox won the World Series. So, like, one of the years... Because they've won a lot recently.
You should know this. Chris,
I know.
You should know.
It was 2004. 2000.
It was in the 2010s. So what were those years?
Was it
2012? Hang on.
13 and 18. Maybe it was 20. It was one of those 2 years, 2013 and 2018. The person who had the most write-in votes for Boston mayor was David Ortiz. Which I don't remember which year, but like they had the election was right after 2013. Yeah, he had the most write-in votes for mayor. And I'm pretty sure Eli Manning got a bunch of votes for New York City mayor, even though he wasn't a resident of New York. The year the Giants won the Super Bowl in like 2012 or something.
Do we have any other fun candidates?
One that's always been really interesting to me was this guy. You might have seen him on your ballots. It's Rocky De La Fuente. He comes up on pretty much every ballot because he ran for Senate in 9 different states in 2018, despite being a resident of none of them. So I really don't understand that. That's always been really interesting to me.
I respect the hustle.
Oh, of course. That's how I feel when I apply for internship positions that I don't really qualify for. Yeah, and I'm just like applying for like all these things, and I'm like, hire me.
When you apply for all the internships, and then a big pandemic hits, and then you just don't hear back, and you're left on red.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
That's every single college kid in the country.
Applied to like 9 or 10, didn't hear back. Stupid pandemic.
What was your final number? Like 50 something?
Yeah. Not to compare numbers, Leah, but I think I applied to like 48. But it's it's all about the hustle. Yeah. It's okay.
Damn.
Yeah. We did this.
No, I applied late, so that's why I didn't get as many in. But
all right, so the last person we're gonna talk about is
the elephant in the room that isn't orange.
Ha ha ha.
Ah ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Ah ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Kanye West.
Kanye West.
Running in the birthday party because, as he said, when he wins, it'll be everybody's birthday.
He's running in the birthday party.
His self-created.
Did you see that he missed registering for one state by like a minute? That
yes.
They like didn't get the papers in or something?
Yeah. They were still sorting them. And then by the time the guy got them in his hand, it was like 5:06 and they didn't count it. So they're suing. Classic. But I think the fact that they're suing when Kanye West forged the signatures on like 6 states with the petitions.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's the battle they should be fighting,
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Out of all the battles. Leah, do you have any thoughts
on
well-worded
thoughts about Kanye West?
Any political thoughts?
No,
politically correct thoughts on Kanye West.
So yeah, I admit I do watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians because first of all, the drama that they're in is just stupid. Like, I love them. I'm a big fan of Khloe because I feel like she's the most realistic in certain ways and she can kind of connect to people. But when I see Kanye in there, it's just like, I know he's trying to come across as a good person. He's done a lot of controversial stuff. And just when I heard, I think it was my friend George, when he texted me, he's like, yo, did you see that Kanye West was running? I was like, no, you're joking. Like, this isn't a thing. He's like, yeah, look at your Twitter. And that was, like, trending. Like, Kanye West running for, like, I was like, so blown away. Just because, like, I feel like him and, like, the family, they're, like, big in, like, the publicity eye. And so it's just another thing kind of for him to look victorious, So when I heard about that, I was just kind of like, please don't. Also, another thing that I like to say about Kanye West is that Kim also came out with this huge statement about 4 pages like Instagram post pages on
said
his story how but it said how he has, what is it? Oh my god, I have
he's bipolar.
Bipolar, that he's bipolar, and like they've been trying to like work through it, and she didn't really want to put him on the spot and reveal something so personal and private, because again, that's not really her life, and everyone in the family has to sign an NDA. But
she did that too, like
by
talking about that issue, how she wanted to like abort her firstborn child. Like he did that to her, so.
No, it's really messed up. I'm not saying what she or he has done is correct, because it's not. And it's just that things like that is just a toxic kind of relationship. But overall, Kanye, not my favorite. Only like one song by him, but that's like 2005 song, something like that. So.
Oh yeah, Power
Old Kanye.
Slaps.
Power or Stronger.
Although what was that one that he came out with post breakdown? Oh, Lift Yourself. That song slaps.
There's
the Poop Diddy Scoop.
I love that song.
I think I read somewhere, because everything you read is true. I think I read somewhere that
if you read it on the internet, it must be true.
He only posted that because if he didn't make a song with those beats, then Drake was going to take those beats, and he just wanted he just didn't want Drake to take the beats. So
yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, so it must be true if 2 people have read it off the internet. I think this was a good way to do a political episode without getting too much into politics, only mildly into politics. I think we did a pretty good job of holding tongues.
Also, just realized that by the time this episode comes out, Kanye West might be not running for president anymore. They might already be divorced.
That's a good point.
He might be president.
Yes,
we really don't know.
This is recorded almost 2 months.
This is some hot takes.
Do we have the honorable mention, Gavin, as well?
Oh, yes, of course. So another honorable, I don't have the exact facts, but I know that there was a dog elected as mayor.
Yeah, of a town in Minnesota. Yeah.
Of a town in Minnesota.
Oh,
so that's
yeah.
our honorable mention of bizarre people elected or who have run. I don't know the history of that dog in Minnesota. I don't know what it's up to now, or what I assume it's not up to.
He's a golden retriever, and he looks so sweet.
I don't know.
That's the nicest way of saying that dog's probably dead.
Possibly. I don't know when this happened.
Well, that's recent, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's recent.
Yeah.
Probably like 13, but it's still alive.
The dog might be alive. I'm sure we would have heard if the dog who was a mayor.
Oh, yeah.
I think we'd know.
I feel like that would have been a RIP so-and-so on Twitter.
Probably.
Like, trending hashtag for like a week.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Left shark.
Exactly.
Left shark.
Yeah. So, anyway, final thoughts on these. It seems like in the beginning when we were talking about all these bizarre elections that were happening in the 1800s, I'm sure back then they were like, oh, elections can't get weirder. This is probably it. We've probably figured it out.
And then 2020 said, hold my beer.
And then even 2016, all of it.
2000 said, hold my beer.
Yeah, everything's just being like, hold on, let me show you what's good. So, any final thoughts, guys?
If you talked more about Alexander Hamilton, I would have just started to sing.
True, we could have talked. I think that was a good way to start it. Ease people in.
It made me happy. It made me really happy.
No, I'm not rapping on the podcast. That's enough for me. Any final thoughts, Chris?
I think we did, a good job of covering a lot of elections in time for the coming election. I think we did a good job trying to keep it neutral, although we did kind of teeter over. I think if someone was listening and didn't know our political beliefs, they probably do now, because of how we're reacting to things. I think we tried, we did a good job, and I think that this was a good podcast. It was, I don't know a lot about politics. Yeah, I don't know a lot about politics, so this was kind of like interesting to see what can happen in elections, and some people who might run for elections, although I wouldn't say that they actually did run, because they didn't run, but they did.
A lot of them just didn't make it far.
I'm so disappointed Deez Nuts isn't president right now.
I know. What times we would have been living in if this...
It was 2020 and Deez Nuts was president.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a lot
would the world be shook?
No,
Chris, I think you said...
I think the world might not be here if Deez Nuts was president. I don't think it would be shook or anything. I think it just might not be existing anymore.
Well, Chris, I really liked what you said, though, because, like you said, this is a very sensitive topic, and I really hope we did a good job trying to stay in the middle ground, and this was really interesting. Thank you, Gavin and Madison, for these facts and just gracing us with politics.
Turned into a
history of
mismatch.
politics.
It's all just bizarre maybe I'll have to rename it. Maybe it won't be renamed or called Bizarre U.S. Elections. It might just need to be Bizarre Happenings in
Elections.
Who knows? We'll see. Bizarre
Just be bizarre
things.
Bizarre elections. Great title. Love it.
Yeah.
Elections.
That's it.
Don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, and it's available for download on all podcasting platforms. I just don't think any other ones have a rating system. But not only don't forget, please rate and review us. Unless you didn't like this, then don't rate and review us. But if you liked it, rate and review it. I think that's the end. I think it's a good way to end. Bye.
Bye. If you want more of This Strange World, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at This Strange World Podcast and on Twitter at This Strange Pod. And now it is time for the sources, because we didn't know all this stuff. Because we're not that... No, hold on, sorry.
I liked that.
Because we didn't know all this stuff because we're not smart or something. That's what I was going to say.
Fine. That's funny.
That's
exactly
exactly what I say every day. It's not the
That's what
same
Gavin
thing. I say
says.
something similar. All right, go for it.
And now it's time for the sources, because we don't know all this stuff and we're not smart. So, Gavin, take it away.
All right, well, speak for yourself, but I'm glad we can all get close to the mic now. The main source that I used for the first half, talking about all the elections, was from CNN Politics, 10 of the most bizarre elections in American history. There were a few others that we didn't touch upon because they get, you need the images, and reading the words is much more helpful. So I recommend checking that out. A lot of the other sources we used was just either general knowledge of people who we've known who have run, or just Wikipedias or stuff of people that we talked about. I didn't really have a lot. The second half, I think, was just mostly conversational. I wouldn't say I had specific sources or a route in mind. So pretty light on the sources, but we'll also be sure to look in the description for the resources for the voting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say the voting thing again? I just burped. Do you want to say the voting thing again?
Yeah, make sure to go to vote.org to find out more about when your absentee ballots are due and the process for voting by mail in your state. And if you want to learn more about candidates and their different positions on the ballot, visit votesaveamerica.com. John
Great.
Favreau, sponsor me. I'm in love with you, John Favreau.
Yeah, so all the resources about voting and candidates are in the description, like we just said. And yeah, that's the politics. That's what they say. That's the way it goes.
As
Chris?
we all say. What's that thing that we do?
You know,
Like,
you know what everyone says? Gavin, you know what we all say?
Yeah,
What do we all say?
All right, ready?
Are we singing on 3?
2, yeah.
Three.
3,
2,
2,
1.
1.
Chris is announcing his running for candidacy as president of the United States. Chris, congratulations!
You got
Oh my
me.
goodness.
You got
It's
me.
a little late to get on the ballot, but I'm glad that we always say this.
No, I'm
This
on
is
it.
What we always say.
You can
I'm on
forge
the
some
ballot.
signatures and be on it in pretty much
Yeah.
every state.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just don't get caught, man. Don't get caught.
Or get
Well,
caught.
now I
feel like you're
now I
probably
will,
wrong.
because you just posted this podcast.
I think the best trick, sign with every other, like sign one with your left hand, sign one with your right hand.
Sign
Like have
one
your
with my,
dog sign some of them.
you know,
Exactly.
put the pen in my mouth, try to sign it that way. Yeah.
You got it. 100%.
Honestly, the more controversy, probably the better. So we're really just setting you up for success.
We want to take away from the actual election happening. We just want to focus on your ballot signatures.
Right.
That's what the people want to hear.
Right. No, that's what's important. Forget
Oh,
about everybody
100%.
else. Yeah.
Forget about the pandemic. There is no pandemic.
about
Only
that.
your
No.
ballot signatures.
There's no such thing. It's my ballot. 2020 is my year.
Exactly. Who would you put in your cabinet in this bit that's going on for too long? I be in your
I would
cabinet?
put. You know what I'd put in my cabinet? I'd probably put a couple of cereal bowls, a couple of paper plates,
A couple of food that doesn't need to be refrigerated.
That would be the best
Yeah.
cabinet.
Some mac and cheese, some goldfish, some popcorn, some Sour Patch watermelon. Yeah,
Oh,
I know what
yeah.
you like, boy. Don't even.
This is the
That sounds like
cabinet.
That's such a hype cabinet. That's a great cabinet.
It's the best cabinet America's ever seen.
Exactly.
You've got my vote.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
Chris.
looking for.
I'll be your VP.
Put me in like some
That's
random thing that like is like a fake position that doesn't do a
Gavin
lot.
will be head of social
Postmaster
media.
General.
Head of
and
social
then-
media of the government. Sure.
Yeah.
Comms director.
Comms director. That's a better way to put it.
That's what it's actually called.
Comms director.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for
All
being on
right.
the episode, Madison, as our political
Thank you.
correspondent kind of person.
I'm so sorry to all the professors. I've just completely screwed up what they've taught me.
Oh, don't worry. They're not listening to this.
I know.
Madison could also be the person who helps Chris and guides him on the way, or helps both of us because we don't know what
The
we're doing.
advisor?
I'll be a
Partners.
CM. No, I'll be your CM. Don't worry.
There you
I'll
go.
be your
Yeah.
campaign manager.
There you go. It's sounding great already. Look for us 2024 or 2020, I guess. We're starting late. We'll get on the ballot.
Nah, I'm jumping in 2024 if my favorite senator runs.
All right, we'll set it up for the next one. This is the end. Next time we'll think of an ending. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.